here in Nigeria, abortion is illegal. However, people do it due to unwanted pregnancies or health complications. In some cases, women become pregnant as a result of sexual assault, which then leads to termination of pregnancy. According to a new study, not less than 41 million abortions, totaling 73% of all abortions in the world, were obtained by married women. It's interesting in the report that 36 out of 1,000 women, married women, actually have abortions, while 25 out of 1,000 unmarried have abortions. So obviously there are more married women having abortions these days. And the abortion rates actually seem to be, in the developed world, it has reduced. But in the developing world, especially in also Nigeria in point, it hasn't reduced or reduced, it's just been maintained pretty much. So it's almost as though people continue with abortion either due to medical reasons or spontaneous reasons. But let me hear your thoughts on this issue of abortion. Let me come to Neil.
Islamic family law in 300 level, and I remember doing we did contraceptives, family planning, yes. Islamic position of family planning into, you know, family life, and we touched on abortion. And I was shocked to know that abortion was legal Islamically if it is within, before the 120 days of gestation, that is before 4 months of gestation, because Islamically it's believed that life of a fetus starts after 4 months of pregnancy. But it had to be within the confines of marriage, such that when the life of the mother is threatened, then, you know, abortion is the alternative, and, you know, a person had to go through it. Unfortunately, when I had to do an evacuation when my baby was still breathing, was after that 4 months gestation. So I always had the guilt that, you know, was this an abortion, was this, you know, and my life was threatened, and it was important at that point to do it. So it has always made me think about abortion, that, you know, is it a way out? Should it be legal? Do people have to do it?
Well, we need to establish even in Nigeria, because in Nigeria it's actually illegal. Even up to 14 years. Yes. If the person who actually conducts the abortion can be in prison for 14 years. Let me let Nima finish.
So I've always thought about it that, you know, if it was a legal thing in Nigeria, a lot of people will come out to do it. I now, you know, staying in the hospital, I saw mothers who were supposed not to get pregnant before 6 months after having a CS, get pregnant mistakenly and want to come and have an abortion. And you hear the doctor say, no, I can't do it, I can't do it, it's not my standard. I know they were going to go out somehow to do it, because, you know, it is illegal and it's a government hospital, they won't do it. But this person was desperate. She will find a way to do it. So if it was, you know, legal, maybe they would have allowed it. I, for one, I'm not in support of abortion in any way. If you get pregnant outside marriage, give birth to your child, that's the consequence of, you know, your irresponsibility in any way. But if you're married and it's extremely important within the confines of your religion, you know, I think let me come to
okay, I'm very sure single ladies will come after me after I say this, but the truth is, if you're not ready to have a child and you know you're not with someone responsible enough to actually take responsibility for that child, don't have sex. Because as much as I preach for abortion to be legalized for the right reasons, girls should not find themselves doing this. I was in the university and you find young ladies, sometimes we even saw one in the toilet, a child, and putting yourself at risk. And now that it's not even legalized in Nigeria, you find that they can't go to the hospital, they go to quacks and get themselves, some of them die, some of them get their womb ruptured. So it's really a bad thing. But I would say that if you know you're not with someone that can actually, and I don't think a girl should be having sex once she's still in school. It's because of, well, there are different arguments, but one of the reasons, the arguments for those who are saying pro-abortion is one of the things you just said. Because if that girl or whoever it is that threw the baby down the drain or down the toilet knew it was legal, he would have gone to the hospital and had the baby evacuated legally. But because it's illegal, that person had chosen. So that's part of the argument of the pro-abortion campaigners. But in a situation where it's within it, the fact that this report is saying that more married women, is it that out of illegitimate pregnancy, or is it out of the fact that they irresponsibility?
I think I want to stand, you know, for some married women, because I had a friend once, and you know, she found that she was pregnant, but at the end of the day, it turned out the pregnancy was ectopic. and it was growing in her fallopian tube. Of course, you would have to carry out an abortion for you to be able to evacuate. It was very painful. She was even scared and thought she would not have, but thankfully after that she's had two more babies.
Right.
So I mean, I would have loved if the statistics given was really specific. Right. It is not out of randomness, because we did a report about DNA and how a lot of women had children that are not children that are not for. I mean, so if you are married, I mean, you can actually rough it up. Do you understand? I think these statistics would have been based on, that's my take, would have been based on health challenges, because there are some pregnancies that are threatening the life of the mother. So you cannot say the pregnancy should stay, inside the woman's womb. One of my friends had, she had a set of twins in her tummy, and she lost the boy, and the girl is about 11 today. Since that day, after that horrible experience, she doesn't even want to get pregnant anymore. If you understand the pain of abortion and the process of abortion, I don't think anybody in their right frame of mind would just willingly submit themselves to an abortion. It is because people don't know. I go to schools, we talk to young girls, and by the time we show them clips of how different styles of abortion are being done, some people use salt, saline solution, some people use the clip methods to clip and all that. I mean, it is a very gory, very, very gory side. So, I mean, nobody would, just sit down and say, this is what I want to do. So I think if the statistics of married women are higher, I would rather base it possibly on health grounds.
Right. Going back to legalizing abortion, Chile yesterday, just the Constitutional Court voted to approve a bill to ease the country's total ban on abortion. Now, look at the tenets there. He said it's ruled that terminations are justified after rape, if the mother's life is at risk, or if the fetus is not expected to survive the pregnancy. And this covers all areas in which that, for a married person or even a single lady, if you find yourself in this category. So I think Nigeria can do the same, that even if you're legalizing, it's not for just a girl that was flippant about herself.
How would you now tell the story? No, because what will happen is that a lot of people will come and they will give all sorts of stories. So how would you be able to differentiate somebody that was forcefully raped and probably she got pregnant in the process? I think for rape, especially for rape, they've always said it, especially from Mirabel Center, after you go that immediate, to just get your evidences and everything, they can immediately, give you certain things that flushes, your system. Well, in the cases of rape.
We have a doctor in the house. Hopefully she will tell me, because I've heard of that, but I've also been told that that's not true. But we'll get a doctor to clarify that.
All distinctions being made now. We distinguish married women's health issues. We still have abortions in very, very high cases. High cases of abortion everywhere now.
Let me take Dr. Femi. Dr. Femi, are you there?
Yeah, good morning.
Morning. Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, talking about abortion, it's a very stupid and idea to come on with. Looking at the rate that is happening right now in Nigeria, and you'll find out the statistics that they did. I'm not in support of that, seriously, because you'll find out that in Nigeria now, the most people that go into abortion, they are the youth.
The youth, yes.
And now abortion is totally wrong, because looking at the way it's being done, looking at the method that's being used, looking at life involved. So I would advise that in Nigeria, please, it shouldn't be legalized, please.
But thank you very much, Dr. Femi, but that's exactly the conversation, because other countries that have legalized abortion have measured a reduction. Because it's now legal, there's nothing hidden about abortion anymore, and if any young child has an issue, she knows where to go to. And because of there's no more shroud of secrecy on this matter. But because in our country is such a demeaning thing to be a young child pregnant, so people hide it and they don't do the right thing, and then they hurt themselves. Mothers young girls babies go motherless, and families lose children because of this.
I was going to highlight to him the damages, of the illegality of it. Right. As much as we do not support it, it's a conversation that we must have. We must have it in the sense that because it is illegal, mothers take their daughters to carry out abortion. And sometimes the daughters do the job themselves and they do a very worse job, so that, you know, a person loses their uterus forever. You know, a worse damage can happen. But if we continue to have this conversation, and it's probably open, like Morayo said, you would know when a child is having conversation. So you are trying to have an abortion. What you will now be doing is to morally raise that child right, so that the irresponsible sexual conduct that results in a pregnancy that then results in an abortion would not even happen in the first place.
Let me take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to bring our doctor on the couch to clarify some of these things issues we've raised. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still looking at abortion. But before we go on, let's take a look at this feature story. Our guest will enlighten us later.
This woman, Mrs. Oboro, entices guests to come for abortions done by her husband in the filthy backroom of his beer parlor. I've had many stories of guests suffering or dying from botched abortions at the hands of quacks. I want to expose these criminals and bring them to justice. Aigbe Ogboro has a reputation of aborting even in advanced stages of pregnancy, but he is not a real doctor. I hate doing this, but these ruthless men keep getting away with it. I know I'm not pregnant, but without even doing a pregnancy test, I was shocked he was ready to carry out an abortion on the spot.
So, if I charge you, I will charge you 50,000 naira.
We tell him that we will return tomorrow for the abortion. We took our evidence to the police. Providing nobody tips him off, we will be back with the full force of the law. Unsafe abortions are Africa's dark, dirty secret. I want to shed light on this tragedy because so many women often have no choice but to risk their lives at the hands of the quack abortionist. Every year in my country, tens of thousands of them will die. It's time for my abortion by Mr. and Mrs. Ogboro. The police take up station outside the clinic. Inside, she leads us to her husband's filthy operating room. My heart is pounding. I'm moments away from the operation. He prepares the operating room. I'm so scared. Thank God the police get here on time. The fake doctor protests as the plainclothes police officer takes him away. I often ask myself how these quacks can live with themselves. At the police station, unbeknownst to them, there is a bigger shock in store. This woman, Juliet, had a botched abortion by Aigbe Ogboro that almost killed her.
This man bust her womb. Very, very heartless. No one say get children. Now you too. You go there very happy because you send your husband. Shut up. How do you go shut up? You feel no concern. And I see they pay the money.
That story was courtesy Al Jazeera News by a Nigerian journalist, Rosemary Nwabuni, who went undercover to expose quack abortions, which kills Nigerian women every year. So that was from Al Jazeera. Joining us is a resident doctor, Chinwe Wokedinobi. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, going by that Al Jazeera report by Rosemary, it's obvious that the issue is not abortion, but the issue here is the people, the quacks, actually carrying out these abortions. That's what that report comes to me. So there are legitimate ways of evacuating a fetus. There are clinical ways of doing this. But the problem, the menace really in our society, is the fact that these quacks that actually engage, do you agree with that, or do you still believe that the entire procedure in itself is wrong?
You have asked a couple of questions in one, so I'll start with earlier on, you said something about abortion being illegal.
Right.
Abortion has its, within the legal framework of Nigeria, it has its, what's the word, limitations or permissions. In other words, you can carry out an abortion to save a woman's life. You can do that for her health. What we don't have is the liberalization, or we have a restrictive law where it's just limited to life-saving experiences. Lagos State has actually taken into context if the pregnancy is a threat to her physical health. So those are some of the things we're dealing with. So the problem with abortion is not just the procedure itself, it's the unsafe, unsanitary practices where you have someone doing, you're talking, by the way, abortion we're using here is induced abortion. Before you could use miscarriages, yes, abortions too. But we're using abortion in this light as a case of an induced or a procured termination of pregnancy or discontinuation of pregnancy. The problem we have mostly that the deaths, the trauma, the bills, the morbidity, the mortality comes from the unsavory and unsafe termination of pregnancy, where you have persons who are not skilled in the procedure, or people doing it, even if you're skilled, you're doing it in a place that does not meet the minimum standards in terms of hygiene. Those are the major concerns. And I fear that as a country, we are a bit, I wouldn't say hypocritical, but we are a bit elitist. In other words, I'm highbrow, for example. I'm a president's wife, or no, sorry, wrong analogy. I'm
a rich man's wife.
Rich man's wife, society wife. I know a doctor who I can visit, who has a good practice, who might be able to, provide me with an abortion. It may be medical, it may be a surgical method. I'm safe, I'm good. My husband doesn't want this last child. We're good, we have 3 girls, the next one is a girl or whatever. We are good. But there's this young woman on the streets who, trader, hawker, petty trader, I don't know, I've said trader twice. So, and she can't afford the services. So who's she going to meet? We do not have a supportive environment for that woman who may need to raise that child alone, because we do know that there's a lot of stigma with a single mother or too many children, or the health, even the pregnancy itself has its own risks.
One of the reasons I would support abortion is because I would hate abortion in marriage, where the reason is because, like you said, you don't have the support system. I'm sorry, I would support contraceptive family planning. That's one of the reasons I support family planning. Think through having a baby. You plan having a baby, because once you're pregnant, you must have the baby. I don't support you now saying, because I don't have the wherewithal to raise the child, and then I take out that child. Because of my religion, of course, that says that be careful of the time when people will start to kill their own children. And I think we've gotten to that stage now where we have too many married couples doing abortion. The reason is because, economically, they are not viable. I would support family planning, like I said earlier, because of that. So
there's something we haven't mentioned. Comprehensive post-abortion care, as recommended by the WHO, has not just treating the abortion, treating the complications of the abortion, providing support, community support. In other words, the woman has a miscarriage, etc., etc. That kind of community support, since you want to talk in the context of marriage. Reproductive health liaison, in other words, a woman gets her pap smear as well. But key is family planning and contraception, which a lot of quacks and our legal or illegal termination abortion does not support. In other words, you come, quick, get your job done, keep going. If we have a framework where we can address the need for, because whether we like it or not, there will be need, or there will be women. There have always been women. Traditionally, we have had ways of terminating pregnancy. Sit on a stool, drink this agbo, drink this lime. And some of them even end up having kidney failure, liver failure, because of all these combinations they are taking. So in other words, what do we need to do as a country? First and foremost, I believe we need to destigmatize, or how do we put it, decolor our prejudice towards the idea of a woman seeking an abortion. It's not an easy choice. A lot of them would not want to be in that position again. But they come in that position, they don't get the adequate, they are treated by quacks. They don't get this post-abortion counseling they should get on how to prevent pregnancy. Like, for example, inserting an IUCD, inserting an implant, and then they go. For some married women, all they know as how to limit their pregnancy is terminating that pregnancy and then stay off from their husband. We have these challenges in education, which maybe if we had introduced a way to combine sexuality and reproductive health education. Somewhere, even if it's not in the secondary school, like some prudes will, some religious bodies will be against. But in the universities where we know that our children and our wards or our relatives are exposed to people of different backgrounds, you have people who are used to people engaging in sexual practices. They're going to come there.
Because you work with Luth, right? You're a consultant there.
No, I'm not. I'm a specialist in training. A
specialist in training
so my
with
views
Luth.
Don't represent. I don't represent Luth.
I know.
I'm here representing myself.
But you have some form of exposure in to have an idea, because the report says 73% are married women. I am of the opinion that before a married woman will probably go in for an abortion, it's possible that it's linked to health complications. Well, maybe not representing Luth. Generally, what have you seen, probably, because you're a gynecologist, right? So what and what in the course of your practice have you seen are the causes for married women to come in and say that they want to have an abortion?
Now, is anybody married here?
Yes, we're all married.
Oh, you're all married.
Except for her.
So, you are married women. What do you think your friends tell you? What do you think your friends would inform your friends' decisions? The
only two friends that I know that had issues with evacuating pregnancies and all that was a result of, no, I think three. One was a result of a miscarriage. The baby wasn't growing properly. The second one, the other two had ectopic pregnancies. Those are the two, the three people that I know of.
Okay, well, I do know that some women, they're breastfeeding. Now, we have what we call lactational amenorrhea, which is sort of a natural method. And ideally, the first 6 months you're breastfeeding exclusively, you shouldn't get pregnant. But we do know women do not have complete compliance. So some of them get pregnant while they're breastfeeding another child. In other words, that new pregnancy, they can't continue breastfeeding because with the breastfeeding, their hormones
I need to hold you on for a second because I have to go a quick commercial. But when we come back and continue this conversation, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So before the break, you're talking about women breastfeeding, getting pregnant again.
Yes. So for some women, in other words, for family, for spacing their children, in other words, while you're breastfeeding and you get pregnant, a lot of these women have to stop feeding the child they have, thereby short-circuiting or, shorting the other child of nutritional benefits of breastfeeding. Because to preserve that pregnancy, some of the changes will put that pregnancy at risk. Not only that, these women are often nutritionally compromised, or in other words, they are not supposed to they are not yet fit. Pregnancy has its toll, so they've not built up their stores. So in other words, that pregnancy by itself has a chance not to do so well. So apart from that, contraceptive, some women come in that they feel contraceptive, in that, for example, you get your injection now and then you miss your date and then you quickly run and you get it and you find out you're pregnant, but you've taken your injectable contraception. You didn't plan for that pregnancy. A lot of women would have.
And let's look at
resort to that.
People coming to the hospital. You work with the hospital, coming to government-owned hospitals, legal hospitals, to say, yeah, we went out and we did this and these are the complications. How do you think that the hospital should address this?
Oh, there's no, how do you put it? Health is wealth, health is first. Our job is first beneficence. What is good for the patient? Don't hurt and do what's right.
So our system allows people to, first of all, go to quacks. Then afterwards, when they now have issues, they come back. Then you're now ready to take care of the complications they get from abortion outside the confines of the law.
Well, it would appear we have a system that does that. In that now at that point we can establish that that pregnancy is a threat to her life. Do you understand? She already has a serious health. Some of them come at death's door. And we're literally running. I do not represent Luth, but those are some of the things we see even outside Luth.
Well, let me take this call. Morning, are you there? Oh, sorry, lost that call.
Because you mentioned that Lagos State government is putting into cognizance that the health of the mother, that's why they would approve an abortion based on health. do we also consider emotional health? Because in these things, we just only think health is just probably physical health. Yeah. Do we consider emotional health in this?
We don't have the framework in Nigeria yet. I think in Imo State, they did try to consider, because when you think of rape and incest, they are emotionally traumatic. So by sideline, you could look at it that they wanted to consider emotional health. But the repeals, all the, the agitation, and the governor had to take it back. So we are not yet where we look at women's emotional health as part of, as important.
What I hear you say now is that we have serious cases where pregnancy from incest and rape are not being looked into because we have a law banning abortion.
We have a law that does not
allow abortion. Now, if it was, open, such cases, the emotional end of it, damages of it would have been taken care of. So we should be having this conversation. I also hear that you're saying that, mothers who have become pregnant while having one baby, or the other, do seek abortion. So it's a Reality that is on us, but we're not willing to have this conversation as well.
Okay, what
would you advise? Based on all these things that we have said, what way would you advise our legislators in every state and federal to look at, a healthy...
The subject of abortion.
If I had one message, it would be, as a country, we need to be a bit more realistic. Women will and have always sought for, whether maybe they were unfit or whatever reason they needed to terminate that pregnancy. We would need to open our doors to expand beyond threat to life that you can physically see is not just the only threat to life a woman has every time she needs to seek an abortion. So I think we need to review how we address our abortion laws so that they can be more expansive and
we need to round up very soon. There are young girls out there,
yes,
Dr. Chinwe, who are doing the do. And a lot of young people are getting abortions. Now, obviously, so there's an argument of how do we do it such that these girls come forward with their conditions and have these things done properly. Because the real issues we have is that these girls go to quacks and they lose their lives, or they get infections, and it causes more problems for them and even their families. Now, as a doctor, a young girl comes to you and she's crying. She's what, 14 years old? And she says, listen, my mother doesn't know, my parents don't know about this. Can you just help me get it out? I know you're my friend's auntie. I can trust you. What would you advise? Because I want young people watching to know exactly what steps to take in this kind of situation.
Oh dear, this is actually a very, very dicey question. What I would say and what I should say are different. So I think we should revisit that question personally. But I do know that first and foremost, young people who do engage in sexual activity are not well informed. In other words, they should choose a family planning method that is appropriate or that would work and that's effective, that they can stick to. For her getting to that point where she has decided she does not want that pregnancy, can I provide the background? If I convince her to keep that pregnancy, for example, can I provide the support? Will I be able to keep her so she goes to school? So these are all the ramifications that she has, or all the ramifications that we need to think about when these people come forward. Unfortunately, that question is...
Can I quickly add to that? I think, because I have been faced with pregnancy, and I took that decision based on not caring what the world thinks. There's always that fear of what will people say, and that's why a girl will want to hide and to go and commit an abortion. So first of all, you need to tell yourself that, this cross is mine to bear, and I don't care what the world thinks, because you're doing two wrongs don't make a right. You're already pregnant, the child did not force themselves to come to this world. So you take a decision, especially if it's not life-threatening. It's the stigma of single motherhood, or the stigma of that a young girl is pregnant, the fear and all of those things. Those are the things that would force a girl to go and risk her life, because the risk is much more.
I do disagree. Pregnancy itself is very dangerous.
Yes.
We don't realize it. We take it for granted when we have, safe delivery, mother goes home. But a teenager getting pregnant is not yet ready, physically, biologically. The stress of the pregnancy, she could have a hypertensive disorder, have a seizure. Not only that, that child may not be well fed. What if the child has a malformation? She's going to deal with all those things if that child makes it. Or she goes into labor and she has obstructed labor and then she's leaking urine. And those are some of the things that we look at, and it's always a risk-benefit ratio. And I think in Nigeria, we need to weigh what it is that we need as a country. If a young woman needs to seek an abortion services, I think we as a country should look to providing her a safe pregnancy termination service or an alternate supportive program. We should be able to do the two at the same time. We have resources.
All right, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we can't take any more, but thank you very much, Dr. Chinwe. The show is over.
Thank you.
All right, don't forget, Celebration 2017. It takes off in London and at the Notting Hill Carnival. Please, I think Celebration is there. They have a stand there. Please go support YK. YK is there, so if you're in London, don't miss it. Go say hello to YK. She's waiting for you to say hello. Have a fabulous day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.